You've found Dreamtime Science, a peaceful corner where we unravel the mysteries of our universe one whisper at a time. Let the gentle current of discovery carry you towards sleep. You know what's fascinating? I've been thinking about how something as simple as believing in a treatment can actually change what's happening inside our bodies. There's something remarkable about how our minds can quietly nudge our biology in surprising ways. And tonight, I'm excited to share a few stories that might just change the way you think about healing. Should these dreamy explorations accompany your journey to sleep, a gentle like or subscription would be deeply appreciated. What questions about our universe keep you wonderfully curious? Now, take a moment. Adjust your blanket. Find the perfect hollow in your pillow. Let your shoulders melt. Breathe in and out. Night settles softly outside, painting the world in gentle gradients of blue and silver. You lie back, your mind ready to float on the currents of possibility, drifting toward the threshold between waking and sleep. In this quiet space, questions bloom like phosphorescent flowers. What is it that gives belief its subtle power? Can the mind, by some mysterious mechanism, nudge the body into healing, or at least persuade it to feel whole for a little while? What ancient magic, what cunning trick lies hidden in the heart of the placebo effect? To begin this journey, let us know. Rush straight for the clinical wards or the double-blind studies, but wander first through the mistier realms of story and imagination, where belief has always worn its most enchanting mask. There is an old, persistent human craving for the shortcut, the hidden key, the spell whispered under moonlight that transforms the mundane into the miraculous. This is the territory of myth and fairy tale, of potions and charms, of amulets slipped into a pocket before battle. Here, belief is not a cold calculation, but a warm, glowing thread woven through every culture, binding past to present in a tapestry as intricate as a spider's web beaded with dew. Consider for a moment the world of Hogwarts, the enchanted castle where young witches and wizards come of age in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. There, amidst shifting staircases and talking portraits, magic is woven into the fabric of daily life. Yet even here, it is not omnipotent. There are laws and limits, a sense that willpower and intent have their own mysterious weight. Within this world, one particular potion stands apart for its peculiar resonance, Felix Felicis, known to the students as liquid luck. It glimmers in its tiny vial, gold and viscous, promising a day when every step is charmed, every decision effortless, every outcome fortuitous. To drink it is to be graced by fortune herself, but only for a fleeting time. What is it that Felix Felicis truly offers? It does not grant invincibility or brute force, but rather a shimmering confidence, a sense of ease and possibility. The lucky drinker is not shielded from all harm, but moves through the world with the uncanny certainty that things will, somehow, work out. It is as if the universe itself conspires on their behalf, or at least that is how it feels. But beneath this golden glamour lies a more subtle truth. The potion's greatest magic is not in the liquid itself, but in the transformation it works within the mind of the one who consumes it. Imagine a student, nervous before a daunting exam, sipping Felix Felicis and suddenly feeling the anxiety melt away. They stride into the hall with head held high, answers flowing more freely, intuition sharpened. But what if the vial held only honeyed water, and it was the belief, the absolute certainty, that made all the difference? The mind, convinced of its own luck, becomes bolder, more creative. The body, freed from tension, performs at its best. Here, the border between magic and psychology begins to blur. If we look beyond Hogwarts, we find echoes of this motif scattered throughout human history. The ancient Greeks carried lucky charms into battle. Medieval healers spoke incantations over bitter draughts. Across continents and centuries, people have pressed talismans to their hearts, traced protective symbols in the air, whispered prayers over wounds. These rituals, no matter how diverse their forms, share a common thread, the conviction that belief itself can shape reality. This is the ancient myth of mind over matter, retold in 1,000 guises. It is the promise whispered by snake oil salesmen and the hope that lingers in the hush of a doctor's office when all other remedies have failed. It is the quiet faith that something, anything, can tip the scales in our favor. The placebo effect, as we now call it, is the scientific heir to this tradition, stripped of its trappings, but still clothed in a subtle enchantment. The very word placebo slinks into our language from the Latin, meaning I shall please. In the Middle Ages, it was a term for comforting psalms sung for the dead, a ritual of solace rather than cure. By the 18th century, physicians began to use the term for treatments meant not to heal, but to satisfy the patient's longing for care, a bitter pill to quiet complaints, a syrup to sweeten the spirit. Even then, the line between deception and compassion was thin and shifting. As medicine grew more rigorous, placebos were cast into the role of scientific control. In the halls of research, sugar pills and saline injections became the shadowy doubles of real drugs, used to tease apart the true efficacy of new treatments from the tangled expectations of patients and physicians alike. The placebo, once a tool of gentle artifice, became an instrument of skepticism, a means to strip away illusion and reveal the bare bones of biological causality. Yet, paradoxically, the more science tried to banish the placebo, the more stubbornly it revealed its power. Again and again, patients given inert pills reported real improvements. Pain softened, nausea ebbed, depression lifted, if only for a time. The effect was not mere malingering or wishful thinking. It rippled through the nervous system, left traces in the body's chemistry. Placebo responses could be measured, mapped, even predicted in some cases. The charm had not vanished. It had simply donned a new disguise. This is belief's charming deception. The mind, convinced it has been given a remedy, can sometimes coax the body into cooperation. The mechanisms remain enigmatic, but the phenomenon is undeniable. Placebos have shrunk tumors, rarely, eased the tremors of Parkinson's disease, soothed the agony of chronic pain. They have, in certain contexts, rivaled the effects of powerful drugs, even as their active ingredients were nothing more than starch and hope. But is this truly deception, or a kind of partnership between mind and body, a truce brokered in the shadowlands of expectation? Here, the boundaries of agency and autonomy begin to blur. The placebo effect is not magic in the sense of supernatural intervention, but it is magic in the older sense, a transformation wrought by ritual, belief, and the subtle choreography of symbols. It is the alchemy of circumstance and suggestion distilled into the quiet theatre of the clinical trial. In this theatre, the patient is both audience and actor, watching for signs of improvement while performing the rituals of healing, taking the tablet, attending the appointment, submitting to the examination. The white coat of the doctor, the gentle authority in her voice, the sterile gleam of the examining room, all these are props in a drama that unfolds behind the eyelids, where hope and doubt wrestle in silence. The placebo does not act alone. It is empowered by the entire context of care, by the web of trust and expectation that binds healer to sufferer. Here, belief is not a passive state, but a dynamic force. It mobilizes attention, sharpens perception, alters the body's chemistry. The brain, anticipating relief, may release endorphins, natural opiates that numb pain. The immune system, rallied by optimism, may unleash a subtle surge of defenses. Even the heart, that most stubborn of organs, may beat a little more steadily beneath the gentle pressure of reassurance. The body, it seems, listens to the stories the mind tells, and sometimes those stories become true, if only for a while. Yet there is a darker shadow beneath this charm. The placebo effect is a double-edged sword, for just as belief can heal, it can also harm. The nocebo effect, its malevolent twin, shows that expectation of illness or pain can summon real suffering from thin air. A patient warned of dire side effects may begin to experience them even in the absence of any real drug. The body, obedient to the mind's fears, can sicken itself with anxiety and dread. Here, the myth of mind over matter reveals its full complexity, not a simple triumph, but a delicate balance, easily tipped. This tension is mirrored in cultural tales of cursed objects, of hexes and evil eyes, of words that wound as surely as any blade. Humans are exquisitely sensitive to symbols, to the hidden meanings woven into gesture and ritual. The mere suggestion of harm can sometimes bring it to pass, just as the promise of healing can conjure relief. The placebo and nocebo, like twin spirits, hover at the threshold of consciousness, shaping our experience of health and suffering in ways we are only beginning to understand. But before we descend into the labyrinth of biology, let us linger a moment longer in these lands of story and superstition. For even in the age of molecular medicine and gene editing, the old enchantments persist. Advertisements for supplements and miracle cures still shimmer with the promise of transformation. Wellness gurus invoke the mysterious power of positive thinking and manifestation. Even the most skeptical among us, faced with uncertainty or pain, may reach for a lucky charm or repeat a cherished phrase. The need to believe, to find agency in the face of uncertainty, is as deeply rooted as hunger or thirst. And so, as the night deepens and your thoughts drift, consider the many faces of belief. The student sipping liquid luck, the soldier clutching a talisman, the patient hoping for a cure. Each, in their own way, is an alchemist, seeking to transmute fear into courage, suffering into relief. The placebo effect is not a mere trick, but a testament to the mind's restless ingenuity, its refusal to be wholly passive in the face of fate. What then lies beneath this charming deception? How does belief, so intangible and fleeting, reach down into flesh and bone, rewiring circuits and releasing secret chemistries? What is the true nature of this partnership between expectation and experience, between story and physiology? The answers, as we shall see, are as intricate as any spell, as subtle as the dawn that now begins to press gently against the horizon. For now, let the questions linger, like motes of dust swirling in a shaft of morning light. The ancient magic of belief still stirs in our veins, waiting to be understood, not as a relic of superstition, but as a living force, woven through every act of healing and every hope for relief. The next step of our journey will lead us deeper, from the world of tales and symbols into the delicate machinery of the mind and body, where the true secrets of the placebo effect begin to unfold, shimmering just beyond the edge of certainty. In the quiet dusk of consciousness, where thought drifts like mist across the moors of the mind, something extraordinary unfolds, something that has long bewildered scientists and philosophers alike. The placebo effect, often whispered as a mere trick of belief, is nothing so plain. It is a labyrinth, a living tapestry woven from expectation, biology, and the subtle choreography of countless neurons. Tonight, let us wander deeper into this maze, with lanterns lit by curiosity, illuminating the subtle corridors where mind and body entwine. In the beginning, there is a story. A patient in a white-walled room, perhaps handed a sugar pill or a saline injection, told it is medicine. The patient believes, and something happens. Pain dulls, symptoms fade, a sense of wellness blossoms. For decades, such moments were dismissed as illusions, as if the mind were a trickster and the body its gullible mark. But if we pause, listening quietly, we hear that the truth echoes deeper. The brain, that dense forest of 86 billion neurons, is not a passive recipient of experience. Each neuron, a living cell, receives and relays signals in a flicker of electrochemical activity, weaving together sensation, memory, emotion, and expectation. This orchestra is not easily fooled. Its responses are not mere fancy. When the patient takes the placebo, it is not just belief fluttering in the prefrontal cortex. The brain is mobilizing a symphony of physiological change. To journey into this, imagine the sensation of pain, the sharpness of a needle, the throbbing of a wound. Pain is not merely a signal from body to brain. It is interpreted, colored, and modulated by context, by expectation, by memory. In a classic experiment, volunteers were subjected to pain, perhaps a heat applied to the skin, and then given a cream described as a powerful analgesic, though it was inert. The very anticipation of relief triggered the release of endogenous opioids, molecules crafted by the brain itself, kin to morphine. These molecules drifted across synapses, binding to opioid receptors, muting the pain. Brain scans revealed the activity. Regions like the anterior cingulate cortex and the periaqueductal gray, ancient and deep, lighting up in concert. The mind was not pretending, it was orchestrating chemistry. Consider this, a patient with Parkinson's disease whose trembling hands are the outward signature of dopamine-starved neurons. In studies, when such a patient receives a placebo, believing it is their long-awaited medicine, their brain responds with a surge of dopamine. The effect is measurable, as real as any pharmacological intervention. The expectation of healing becomes, through a chain of intricate signals, the substance of healing itself. The placebo is not all in the mind. It is in the synapses, in the blood, in the shifting architecture of the brain. Yet the story deepens. The placebo effect is not uniform, not a shimmering veil dropped over all symptoms alike. Some conditions respond more than others. Pain, depression, anxiety. These are domains where placebo weaves its strongest magic, perhaps because they are already shaped by the tides of mood and cognition. But there are glimmers even in the harder landscapes of physiology. In asthma, for instance, a placebo inhaler may not open constricted airways, but patients often report feeling better, breathing easier, a split between subjective experience and objective measurement. Here, the labyrinth shows its twists. Belief can soothe, but not always cure. Perception can shift, while the underlying biology remains stubborn. Still, sometimes the biology yields. In immune disorders, the act of receiving a placebo has been shown to modulate immune response, altering levels of cytokines and antibodies. In one remarkable series of studies, patients with allergies were conditioned, Pavlov-style, to associate a distinctive flavor with an antihistamine. Later, when given only the flavor, with no drug, their bodies produced a muted allergic response. The mind, through the winding corridors of learning and expectation, had reached into the immune system and changed its course. What, then, is really happening? The mind, we now understand, is not a ghost in the machine, but the dynamic activity of the brain itself, chemical, electrical, embodied. When we speak of expectation, belief, and hope, we are not invoking something insubstantial. We are describing patterns of neural activity, cascades of neurotransmitters, shifting balances of hormones. The placebo effect is not the absence of medicine, it is the presence of the mind's own pharmacy. Let us walk further into the shadowed halls where consciousness itself is shaped. Often, the placebo effect is described as a product of suggestion, the doctor's words, the ritual of treatment, the trappings of authority. Yet these are not mere social niceties. The context in which we receive care imprints itself on the brain. A trusted physician's assurance, the gleam of medical instruments, the scent of antiseptic, all these become cues, activating networks of association, memory, and expectation. The prefrontal cortex, seat of planning and belief, communicates with the limbic system, where emotions and bodily states are registered. Together, they send signals downward influencing the release of hormones from the pituitary, modulating the autonomic nervous system, tuning the body's internal state. This is why the color and size of a pill, the manner in which it is given, and the words spoken by the healer all matter. A blue pill may calm, a red one may energize. An injection may work where a tablet does not, even if both are inert. The ritual matters because the brain is exquisitely attuned to context, forever shaping reality to expectation. Here, the boundary between conscious and unconscious blurs. Much of the placebo effect is not the result of deliberate belief, but of implicit learning. The body remembers, even if the mind does not. A child comforted by a parent's touch, an adult reassured by a doctor's confidence. These memories lay down tracks in the nervous system, shaping future responses. The placebo effect is, in part, the echo of past care, reverberating through the chambers of the brain. And so, the myth that the placebo is all in the mind dissolves into complexity. The mind is not a solitary puppeteer. It is a network, an emergent phenomenon of billions of cells, each shaped by evolution, experience, and context. The placebo effect is not imaginary. It is embodied, measurable, as real as the pulse in your wrist or the breath in your chest. But complexity breeds mystery. For every mechanism we unveil, new questions bloom. Why do some people respond to placebo more than others? Is it a matter of personality, genetics, upbringing? Twin studies suggest there is a heritable component to placebo responsiveness, hinting at ancient wiring deep in our DNA. The very structure of the brain, the density of opioid receptors, the connectivity between regions, may shape how readily expectation becomes biology. And still, the labyrinth yields surprises. The so-called nocebo effect, the dark twin of placebo, shows us the mind's power to harm as well as heal. If a patient expects pain or side effects, their body may oblige. Headaches blossom, nausea coils in the gut, rashes bloom. These are not imagined torments. They are conjured from the same neural circuits, the same biochemical messengers. The mind is not always a gentle healer. It can also be a stern tormentor. Within this labyrinth, the role of uncertainty looms large. Placebo effects are strongest when outcomes are unpredictable, when the mind hovers at the threshold between hope and doubt. Certainty, it seems, closes the gate, while uncertainty leaves it ajar for expectation to slip through. The ancient brain, honed by millennia of survival, is forever scanning for patterns, seeking cause and effect. When given a treatment, real or sham, it braces for change, preparing the body for healing or harm. This is not to say that all healing is placebo, nor that all illness can be banished by belief. The limits are real, and sometimes the labyrinth leads only to a wall, but the path is winding and the boundaries are porous. There are stories of warts fading when painted with inert solutions, of surgical scars healing faster beneath the balm of hope, of fainting spells cured by the touch of ritual. These are not miracles, but the work of biology, guided by the hand of expectation. And so we find ourselves in a place both familiar and strange. The placebo effect is not a footnote to medicine, but a window into the mind's profound influence on the body. It is a testament to the brain's plasticity, to the endless dialogue between perception and reality. In the echoing chambers of the mind, belief is translated into chemistry. Hope becomes healing, or its absence, suffering. As you drift deeper into the night, consider the marvel that is your own consciousness. Beneath the surface of awareness, your brain is forever weaving, forever interpreting, forever shaping the body's response to the world. The placebo labyrinth is not a trick or a deception, but a testament to the unity of mind and matter. Each thought, each expectation, each memory leaves its trace, not only in the mind's eye, but in the pulse, the cell, the marrow. There remain always more corridors to explore. The boundaries between self and other, between healer and patient, ripple with possibility. Social connection, trust, and empathy are not abstractions. They are as real as neurons firing, as hormones flowing. The context of care, the presence of another, the ritual of healing, all these shape the brain's response, amplifying or diminishing the placebo effect. And so the labyrinth beckons onward. The mind's complexity is not a puzzle to be solved, but a terrain to be wandered, with each step revealing new vistas. The placebo effect, in all its intricacy, invites us to see the body not as a passive vessel, but as a living, responsive network, guided by the music of expectation, the dance of neurotransmitters, the silent wisdom of the cell. In this twilight realm, where biology and belief entwine, the story continues. The mind's labyrinth is deep, and we have only begun to trace its winding paths. Each question leads to another, each answer reveals deeper wonder. Somewhere, just ahead, the next chamber awaits, lit by the quiet glow of inquiry, promising new mysteries in the interplay of thought and flesh, hope and healing. Let us pause in this gentle ambiguity, sensing the vastness that surrounds us. For in the silent spaces between neuron and synapse, between mind and body, the labyrinth of placebo stretches onward, its mysteries whispering softly, inviting us further still. A hush drapes the hospital ward, punctuated only by the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes and the distant metallic chime of equipment. Each bed holds a story, each patient a question. In this room, and in thousands like it across continents and decades, the intricate dance of hope, belief, and biology unfolds. A dance we have tried, again and again, to decipher. To peer into the heart of the placebo effect is to journey through the corridors of medicine, not as a passive observer, but as a detective, ever alert to the subtle clues that separate true healing from the mere theatre of care. It is in these quiet, charged spaces that the placebo effect first drew the attention of the scientific mind. Medicine, for much of its history, was an art of ritual and reassurance as much as of remedies. For centuries, the boundary between faith and fact blurred easily. A bitter draught, a whispered prayer, the laying on of hands, all could bring relief, and all could be called medicine. But with the rise of scientific thinking, a new demand emerged to distinguish what truly worked from what only seemed to work. The placebo effect, once a background murmur, now demanded the spotlight. To understand how we have studied this effect, let us wind the clock back to the mid-20th century, when the world was convulsed by war and the front lines were makeshift laboratories for medical innovation. Here, in the chaos of World War II, a young American anesthesiologist named Henry Beecher found himself confronting an impossible shortage. Wounded soldiers needed morphine, but supplies were running out. Desperate, a nurse filled a syringe with saline, salt water, and administered it as if it were the precious painkiller. To Beecher's astonishment, the suffering soldiers relaxed, their pain seemingly abating. This moment, born of necessity and desperation, would echo through the halls of medical research for decades to come. Beecher's experience did not stand alone. The idea of giving a patient a treatment that had no active ingredient, a placebo, was not new. The term itself stretches back to the Latin placere, meaning to please. But as Beecher reflected on his wartime experiences, he saw something more than an ethical grey area. He saw a source of bias that could undermine the very fabric of scientific discovery, yet also a phenomenon that hinted at the vast, unexplored landscapes of the human mind. In 1955, Beecher published a now famous paper, The Powerful Placebo, in which he argued that up to a third of all therapeutic effects might be attributed to placebo responses. For many, this figure was shocking. Was medicine, then, little more than an elaborate charade? The answer, as always, was more complicated. The placebo effect was not mere deception. It was a force of mind and body, intertwined, one that demanded rigorous investigation. But how does one study belief itself? How do we distinguish a real cure from a hopeful illusion? The challenge gave birth to one of the most ingenious tools in all of science, the randomized controlled trial, or RCT. Imagine two groups of patients, each suffering from the same malady. One group receives the new drug under investigation. The other receives a pill that looks and tastes identical but contains only inert ingredients, often nothing more than sugar and starch. Neither patient nor doctor knows who receives which. This is the double-blind method, a shield against expectation and bias. Only at the study's end are the identities of the pills revealed and the results compared. It is a method both elegant and deeply humane. By blinding both patient and physician, it guards against the subtle influences that can sway perceptions, an encouraging word, a furrowed brow, the simple hope that something will work. In this way, the placebo becomes not a trick, but a tool, a baseline against which true efficacy can be measured, and a mirror reflecting the astonishing power of expectation. But the story does not end with sugar pills. The ingenuity of scientists, ever restless, has given rise to a host of further tools and trials, each designed to probe deeper into the enigma. Consider the case of sham surgeries, a phrase that sounds almost sinister in its implication. Yet these experiments, conducted with the utmost care, have revealed some of the most profound truths about the nature of healing. In the 1950s, surgeons performed a common operation for angina called internal mammary artery ligation. Patients reported remarkable relief from chest pain after the procedure. But skeptics wondered, could the improvement be due not to the surgery itself, but to the patient's belief in its efficacy? To answer this, researchers devised a double-blind surgical trial. Half the patients underwent the full procedure. The other half received only an incision and superficial manipulation, with no actual alteration of their arteries. Astonishingly, both groups improved at similar rates. The mere ritual of surgery, the drama of the operating room, was enough to trigger real relief. Such findings are not confined to the distant past. In recent decades, sham surgeries have been used to test procedures for knee pain, vertebral fractures, and Parkinson's disease. Each time, the careful choreography of anesthesia, incisions, and recovery rooms has sometimes produced effects indistinguishable from those of the actual operation. Here too, the placebo effect reveals itself not as a trivial side note, but as a central player in the drama of medicine, a force that can shape outcomes as powerfully as knife or drug. Beyond pills and scalpels, the tools of placebo research have grown ever more sophisticated. Scientists have devised active placebos, substances that mimic the side effects of real drugs, dry mouth, drowsiness, without targeting the disease itself. Such methods are used in trials of antidepressants, where the simple experience of a physical sensation can reinforce the belief that one is receiving real treatment. In these carefully constructed illusions, researchers strive to isolate the true signal from the noise, to untangle the intricate threads of mind and molecule. The detective story of the placebo effect is also a story of measurement, a quest for reliable ways to quantify the intangible. Pain, after all, is a private experience, invisible to the eye and resistant to scales. To meet this challenge, scientists have developed questionnaires, visual analog scales, and even advanced brain imaging techniques. Modern functional MRI scans have revealed that placebo-induced pain relief is not imaginary. It correlates with measurable changes in brain activity, particularly in regions rich with opioid receptors. The mind, it seems, can summon its own pharmacy, releasing molecules that soothe and comfort in ways indistinguishable from morphine itself. The history of placebo research is strewn with clever experiments and subtle puzzles. In the 1970s, a group of researchers led by John Levine at the University of California, San Francisco, performed an elegant study on dental pain. Patients who had just undergone wisdom tooth extraction were given a placebo painkiller. Many reported relief. But when the researchers administered naloxone, a drug that blocks the action of endorphins, the pain returned. The implication was clear. The placebo had triggered the body's own opioid system, unleashing biochemical cascades that dulled the ache. Here, at last, was evidence that the placebo effect was not mere whimsy or wishful thinking, but a tangible physiological event. Still, the path toward understanding has never been linear. Each answer gives rise to new questions. Each experiment opens new avenues of doubt and wonder. The placebo effect, it turns out, is not a single phenomenon, but a tapestry woven from many threads: expectation, conditioning, doctor-patient rapport, cultural beliefs, and perhaps unknown factors still lurking in the shadows. Researchers have explored the role of color and shape, finding that red pills stimulate while blue pills calm, that injections are more potent than capsules, that the mere presence of a stethoscope or white coat can amplify the effect. The setting itself, the quiet confidence of the clinic, the ritual of diagnosis, becomes a kind of stage on which healing is enacted. Even language is a tool in this grand investigation. The way a doctor frames a treatment, "This medicine has helped many people like you," can heighten expectation and enhance outcomes. Conversely, uncertainty or brusqueness may blunt the effect. Thus, placebo research becomes not just a study of substances, but of symbols and stories, of the subtle choreography that binds healer and healed. In the latter part of the 20th century, as the placebo-controlled trial became the gold standard of medical research, a new paradox emerged. The more we learned about the placebo effect, the more it threatened to undermine the very studies designed to tame it. Placebo responses grew stronger over time in certain trials, an effect attributed to rising expectations, media coverage, and the increasing complexity of therapeutic rituals. Some researchers wondered if the act of participating in a trial itself, with its careful monitoring and attentive care, was a kind of treatment all its own. To address these layers, scientists have devised ever more nuanced study designs. The no-treatment group, for instance, allows researchers to distinguish the placebo effect from the natural course of illness or spontaneous remission. Meanwhile, open-label placebos, where patients know they are receiving an inert pill, have yielded surprising results. Even with full knowledge, belief and ritual can trigger real improvement in conditions such as irritable bowel syndrome and chronic pain. The detective work continues at the molecular level. In recent years, researchers have identified genetic variations that make some people more susceptible to placebo effects than others. The COMT gene, for instance, influences the metabolism of dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to reward and expectation. People with certain variants of this gene may be more likely to experience powerful placebo responses, their brains primed to turn hope into healing. The journey through these experiments and discoveries is not without ethical quandaries. The use of placebos in clinical trials raises profound questions about honesty, consent, and the duty to heal. Is it right to withhold effective treatment even in the name of science? Can deception ever be justified if it brings relief? These are questions medicine still wrestles with, seeking a balance between the rigor of discovery and the demands of compassion. Yet for all our clever tools, pills, surgeries, scans and scores, the placebo effect remains, at its core, a mystery. It is a mirror in which we glimpse the profound connection between mind and body, belief and biology. Each experiment is a clue, each trial a step further into the labyrinth. We have mapped some passages, illuminated some corners, But the heart of the enigma still eludes us, calling us onward with its quiet, insistent promise. As the night deepens and the ward grows still, we find ourselves standing at the edge of what is known, peering into the soft, beckoning dark of what remains to be discovered. The story of the placebo effect is far from finished. New tools, new questions, and new frontiers beckon. Yet always, beneath the surface of every trial and every treatment, the ancient interplay of hope and healing endures, waiting for the next investigator, the next patient, the next dream of cure. There is one more place the detective story leads us, a realm where the boundaries between medicine and magic, science and ritual, blur and blend. Here, at the threshold of understanding, we prepare to step forward, drawn by the shimmering promise of possibilities still unseen, stories still untold. The enigma endures and the journey continues, ever deeper into the heart of healing. There is a hush that falls over the mind when one encounters a mystery that resists final explanation, a silence not of ignorance, but of awe. So it is with the placebo effect. It stands as a testament to the subtle, uncharted landscapes within us, where belief and biology intertwine in ways that confound our yearning for simple boundaries. In this hush, as the world grows quiet and the mind's eye turns inward, we find ourselves drawn to reflection. What does it mean truly for a thought, a hope, an expectation to echo so deeply that it leaves measurable traces on the body? What does it say about what it is to be human, to possess this capacity for self-healing through belief alone? The placebo effect is not merely a scientific curiosity nor a trick of the mind. It is a window into the architecture of consciousness, a phenomenon that invites us to reconsider the ancient chasm between mind and body. For centuries, philosophers and physicians alike have debated where one ends and the other begins. The old Cartesian divide, body as machine, mind as ghostly director, has shaped medicine, science, and culture alike. Yet the placebo effect seeps through this division, uniting flesh and thought in a dance that is at once mysterious and beautifully ordinary. Consider for a moment the simple act of swallowing a sugar pill, convinced it will relieve pain. Muscles relax, heartbeats slow, the ache subsides. Brain scans reveal shifting patterns of activity. Neurotransmitters, tiny messengers, are released in precise synchrony. The body, believing itself healed, behaves as if healing is underway. Is this deception, or is it an expression of a latent potential, a capacity for healing always present, waiting for the right key to unlock it? The question is not just scientific, but philosophical. What is a belief? Is it a mere pattern of electrical impulses, a fleeting arrangement within the brain's labyrinth? Or is belief something more, a force capable of rewriting the body's own code, of reaching across the invisible divide between thought and flesh to stir the very molecules of being? The placebo effect suggests that belief is not a ghostly distraction from reality, but is itself a form of reality, as tangible in its effects as any chemical or surgical intervention. This realization humbles us. It reveals that our knowledge, for all its rigor and detail, is but a lantern in a vast and shadowed forest. For centuries, healers have invoked the power of ritual and suggestion, of hope and trust, often without understanding why their remedies worked or when they failed. Modern medicine, armed with randomized trials and double-blind studies, sought to strip away these uncertainties, to isolate the real effects from the imagined. Yet here, at the heart of the placebo effect, the imagined becomes real. The subjective is no longer mere noise, but a signal, subtle but unmistakable. There is a deep beauty in this. The placebo effect is a testament to the creative, generative powers of the mind. It asks us to reconsider the boundaries we have drawn around the self. Where does the body end and the mind begin? If belief can change the trajectory of healing, then the mind is not a passive observer, but an active participant in the story of the body. The immune system, the nervous system, the very cells of our being, each responds to the stories we tell ourselves, the hopes we cultivate, the faith we place in the possibility of change. This is not to say that the placebo effect is omnipotent, or that belief alone can conquer all ills. The body is not infinitely malleable, nor is suffering a mere illusion waiting to be wished away. But neither is the body a mere machine. It is rather a field of possibility, shaped by the dance of expectation and experience. The placebo effect is a reminder that healing is not just a matter of biochemistry, but of meaning, of the narratives we inhabit, the trust we place in healers, the rituals that frame our encounters with suffering and hope. In this light, the placebo effect is a challenge to the reductionist view of life. It is a call to embrace a more holistic vision, one that honors the interplay of biology and belief, of matter and meaning. Every act of healing, every moment of relief, is both a biological event and a story told by the body to itself, by the mind to the flesh. The placebo effect is the echo of this storytelling, a gentle reminder that we are, in the end, creatures of both nature and narrative. This interplay raises questions that ripple outward, touching the deepest currents of philosophy and science alike. What, after all, is consciousness? If belief can alter the chemistry of the brain, the rhythms of the heart, the sensation of pain, then consciousness is not a passive mirror of the world, but a force that shapes reality from within. Each thought, each hope, each expectation is a pebble dropped into the pond of the self, sending ripples across the surface, touching even the farthest shores of the body. The placebo effect is not alone in blurring the boundary between mind and body, but it is perhaps the most intimate and accessible of such mysteries. It is a reminder that healing is not always a matter of external intervention, but sometimes arises from within, ignited by the spark of belief. This does not diminish the value of medicine. Rather, it enriches it, situating the practice of healing within a broader landscape that includes not only drugs and surgeries, but also trust, empathy, and hope. There is a humility in this recognition. For all our advances, for all our knowledge, there remains an irreducible mystery at the heart of healing. The placebo effect is a testament to the limits of our understanding, a frontier where science meets the unknown. It invites us to approach ourselves and each other with wonder and compassion, to recognize that every act of healing is both a matter of flesh and spirit, of molecules and meaning. But the philosophical wonder of the placebo effect is not confined to the clinic or the laboratory. It extends outward, touching every aspect of human life. We are, all of us, creatures of belief. We live by the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what is possible, what is worth striving for. The placebo effect is but one manifestation of the power of belief, a microcosm of the larger currents that shape our lives. It is a reminder that hope is not merely a consolation, but a force that can change the world from within. Think of the rituals we invent, the symbols we cherish, the ceremonies that mark the passage of time. Each is a testament to our capacity for meaning-making, for investing the world with significance. The placebo effect echoes this capacity, showing that belief is not a mere epiphenomenon, but a creative act, one that can reach into the very tissues of our being. The stories we tell ourselves, of healing, of possibility, of hope, are not mere fantasies. They are, in their own way, acts of creation. Yet the placebo effect also cautions us. It is a reminder that belief is a double-edged sword. Just as hope can heal, so too can despair wound. The power of expectation is not always benevolent. The so-called nocebo effect shows that negative beliefs too can be embodied, manifesting as pain, illness, or suffering. This is the shadow side of the mind's power, a reminder that the stories we inhabit shape not only our joys, but also our sorrows. But perhaps this is what it means to be human, to dwell in the realm of possibility, to be shaped by hope and fear, by faith and doubt. The placebo effect is a mirror in which we glimpse ourselves, not just as biological machines, but as meaning makers, as creatures who live by the light of belief. It invites us to approach our own suffering with compassion, to recognize the power of hope, and to honor the mystery that lies at the heart of healing. As the night deepens and the world grows quiet, let us linger in this space of wonder. The placebo effect is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be cherished, a reminder that there are frontiers within us as vast and uncharted as the cosmos itself. Within each of us lies a capacity for healing, for transformation, for hope, a capacity that defies easy explanation, that slips through the nets of logic and reason. There is, in the end, a profound kinship between science and philosophy, between the search for knowledge and the quest for meaning. The placebo effect stands at this crossroads, inviting us to look inward, to approach ourselves with curiosity and humility. It is a reminder that the boundaries we draw between mind and body, between science and spirit, are not fixed, but porous, shifting with each new discovery, each new story. And so, as we drift towards sleep, let us carry with us the wonder of this mystery, the power of belief, the interplay of mind and body, the deep currents of hope and healing. These are not merely subjects for study, but truths to be lived, to be honored, to be explored anew with each breath, each heartbeat. The placebo effect is a whisper from within, calling us to remember the depths of our own potential, the beauty of our own becoming. Perhaps tomorrow, or in some quiet moment yet to come, we might find ourselves reflecting on this mystery once more. What stories do we tell ourselves, and how do they shape our days, our bodies, our very sense of self? How might we cultivate hope, not as fantasy, but as a force for change, a gentle, persistent current flowing through the veins of our lives? In the gentle darkness, with the world hushed and still, we are left with questions at flicker at the edge of consciousness. What else, we might wonder, lies hidden within us, waiting to be awakened by belief, by trust, by the quiet daring of hope? The journey is unfinished, the mystery undiminished, the horizon ever receding. As the night unfolds, the story, our story, continues, shaped by the invisible threads that bind mind to body, belief to being, wonder to the world. As our journey through the shimmering realms of belief and biology gently drifts to a close, may the quiet magic of the placebo effect linger like a comet tail fading into the hush of space. Let your thoughts float softly on this cosmic breeze, and when the stars align again, return with me for more Dreamtime tales where science and wonder entwine.